G'day virtual pilots, it's Requiem. Whether you know it as the Thunderbolt or the Jug, this is the video where we'll start learning about the P-47D. The P stands for Pursuit, and this designation was used to show aircraft as fighters in World War II. So while the P-47 was originally designed as a high altitude fighter, it became a true fighter bomber by excelling in the ground attack role. This is because in addition to being equipped with 8 of the powerful 50 caliber machine guns, it carries over 2,500 pounds of bombs and rockets which it can use. When you're not pounding away at ground targets though, you'll be flying high and fast, up to a maximum of 40,000 feet and an airspeed of 430 miles an hour. The Jug is in its element here, and considering that it has semi-elliptical wings with a high wing loading, this means that the P-47 really must stay high and fast, while avoiding prolonged turn fights in order to be an effective fighter aircraft. Thanks to an all-metal construction, armour plating in front of and behind the pilot, a 38mm armoured glass windscreen, self-sealing fuel tanks, and the Pratt & Whitney R2800 engine, the P-47 developed a reputation as an aircraft with high survivability that will perform its mission and get you home even after suffering severe punishment. The R2800 Double Wasp is the biggest highlight of the P-47, and it's an air-cooled radial engine with a 4-bladed Curtiss constant speed propeller attached. Maximum continuous power uses 42 inches of manifold pressure, but emergency power is available through a methanol water injection system controlled on the throttle. This will last you around 15 minutes. However, the famous high altitude performance of this engine comes down to the fact that it uses not just one, but 2 superchargers. One of them is a standard part of the engine itself. It compresses air to improve performance at high altitudes, but it's the other one, called a turbo supercharger, which is the star of the show. This turbo is located in front of the tail and uses the engine's exhaust gases to spin a turbine, which will compress even more air to give to the engine for even higher performance. The turbo actually needs its own control on the throttle quadrant to help regulate these exhaust gases and the RPM of the turbine. So the general rule is to leave the turbo linked with the throttle until the turbo overspeed light turns on. For ease of use, the propeller and turbo controls can both be linked with the throttle, but to regulate the effect of the air supercharged by this turbo on the carburetor's air temperature, you'll use an intercooler shutter, which is normally left in the open position, but it should be in the neutral position when you're flying above 350 miles an hour or in very cold conditions. For the fuel system, there are 2 fuel tanks located internally. There's a main tank which holds 270 gallons located below and in front of the cockpit, while there's an auxiliary tank holding 100 gallons which is underneath the pilot. If you need extra range though for long distance missions, then you can carry up to 3 external fuel tanks on the belly and the wings. But if you carry these, remember that you need to drop them before you enter combat. There are several types of bombs that may be carried, from M30s weighing only 100 pounds up to the M65 which weighs 1,000 pounds. The D40 model additionally also has the option to load up either the 4.5-inch M8 rockets with the tube launchers or the 5-inch HFAR rockets. There are 3 models of the P-47D in DCS that are included. There's the P-47D-30, the D-30RE, and the D-40. The important differences to note are that the D-30RE has extra bomb and tank controls, there are dive recovery flaps installed, and the Mark 8 gun sight is replaced by the gyroscopic K-14 gun sight. The D-40 replaces those bomb and tank controls in the RE with 2 control panels that help manage your stores better, which now includes rockets. The bubble canopy found on the D-25 series and higher is controlled electrically inside the cockpit rather than manually, like you find in the early models which have a razorback canopy. If needed though, this canopy can be jettisoned manually in an emergency. The flight controls are all mechanically actuated directly by the control stick and pedals, and you have trim tabs on the ailerons, elevators and the rudder. But an engine-driven hydraulic system powers the cowl flaps, the landing flaps, and the dive recovery flaps. If this engine-driven hydraulic pump is not working though, there's a hand pump in the cockpit which can be used manually to provide hydraulic pressure if you need it. The landing flaps extend to a maximum of 40 degrees, and they are known as slotted flaps. So as they extend, there's a slot which forms between the wing and the flap. This results in more airflow over the flap itself, which increases your lift without too much extra drag. The compressibility flaps are located just in front of the landing flaps. These will help you recover safely from dives at very high airspeeds where compressibility occurs. The landing gear is hydraulically actuated and fully retractable, including the tail wheel, which will help decrease drag. The tail wheel is also lockable using a control in the cockpit. For aircraft lighting, there are lamps on either side of the pilot as well as instrument lighting, navigation lights on the wing and tail, plus a retractable landing light installed on the left wing. As a form of communication between ground units or other aircraft, there are recognition lights located under the right wing tip, which is controlled by a console in the cockpit. The radio itself is a simple VHF radio with 4 channels: Alpha, Bravo, Charlie and Delta. So that completes the aircraft general portion for the P-47D. In the next video we're going to have a look at the cockpit in a bit more detail. Until next time though, remember to fly safe and check your 6.